When a show ends, it can be sad, especially when it's a good show. When this video comes out, Yu-Gi-Oh! Arc 5 will have pretty much ended on episode 148, I believe. Why do I bring up Yu-Gi-Oh! Arc 5? Well, you all read the title, you know what this is about. My top 5 Yu-Gi-Oh! Shows. Which is probably going to be obvious, but here are my reasons. As for female wolf returning, not yet. So, let's begin with my number 5. Also, sorry for me using the old format, makes it easier for me to edit.
You're both done for.
Yu-Gi-Oh! Zexal. Why is it on the bottom? Well, it has its reasons. Let's start off with Yuma. He's a student at a school that doesn't teach card games, first of all. During a duel with a bully named Shark, his key that he got from his dad acts up and he faces a door that holds power behind it. Then, Astral appears. Astral is an alien from Astral World, super creative, who also has no memories. Yuma and Astral team up in various duels that feature new monsters known as Xyz, separate from the XYZ Dragon canon, which are also known as the Numbers. During their hunt for the Numbers, they come across a kid named Kaito, or Kite, who hunts numbers for his father in order to keep his little brother safe. His main card is a dragon. The first villain crew are 3 boys named after numbers, Quattro, Trey, and Quentin. I don't really get this last one. And their father, Vetrix. Vetrix, Dr. Faker, and Yuma's dad were on an expedition before Dr. Faker betrayed them and trapped Yuma's dad somewhere and made Vetrix into a child or something. Yuma duels him and wins, leading to a duel with Dr. Faker where he wins alongside Kaito and Shark. Then Baryon appears. What are the Baryons? Aliens who are at war with Astral World who tried to use Dr. Faker into killing Astral World by using hearts. Zexal 2 comes and the Baryons are now the new enemy. Oh, and Shark and his little sister are brainwashed into thinking they're Baryons too or something. They invade Earth, kill some people I believe, and then one of the Baryons betrays the other Baryons. He gets killed off too. Yuma and Shark, or Nash, as he is called when in Baryon form, must face the leader of the Baryons, Dawn 1000. They win. Then Yuma must face Astral in order to decide what happens with the Numeron code. Basically all the numbers put together. Astral wants to kill everything with it, as that is what he was created for or something, while Yuma doesn't want that. Yuma wins, of course. So, what's wrong with it? Well, the voices I don't like. I mean, I'm talking mostly in both versions as well, Japanese and English. I've listened a little bit and I just don't like them. I was never fond of Xyz summoning either because it's a weird name and I never understood it. Yuma can be a bit of an idiot, like forgetting something important to the duel tournament. Plus, it kind of felt like recreation of the first series. Student protagonist? Check. Random spirit who helps main character duel? Check. Spirit has no memory and constantly put in danger? Check. Main monster has 2,500 attack points? Check. Oh, that goes for all the series. Villains have magical powers? Check. Final duel is between the spirit and main character and risks life of the spirit? Check. But let's move on.
That's not my favorite way to wake up.
Number 4.
You shouldn't make promises you can't deliver.
I hope I'm not making a promise I can't deliver.
Yu-Gi-Oh! Generation X. The main protagonist, a Jaden Yuki, or Jidai Yuki. He's the only character lucky enough to not have the U as his first name. He's a fan of superheroes with his whole deck revolving around it. Similar to the first series, he gets a spirit named Yubel who helps him with his duels. However, Yubel is actually a bit different. Yubel was actually meant to protect Jaden when he was young, but later was launched into space because Jaden won some kind of tournament and became corrupted by some evil light. She obsesses over Jaden and harms his friends in order to get close to him. During his duel with Yubel, he uses super polymerization to fuse their souls together. But before that, Jaden fights a man named Sartorius, who brainwashed students for some reason. Before that, a group known as the Shadow Riders tried to take the spirit keys on the main characters to revive the sacred beasts, which was later used by Yubel when possessing other students. After all that, darkness rises and threatens to erase duelists' memories, their souls, and the world. Jaden defeats him and later duels Yugi/Atem in a dream sequence most likely, with Neos fighting against Slifer the Sky Dragon. Gee, I wonder who's gonna win that. Why do I dislike it? First off, the voices again. Second of all, it didn't really add a whole lot to this series as a whole other than more cards. Zexal at least was built around a new mechanic, Xyz summoning. Ritual summoning was a thing, why wasn't that in it? In fact, why did we have to wait 3 more series to see ritual summoning be used again? Anyways, some characters I actually did like obviously Zane Truesdale. He actually dies when dueling Yubel due to his heart being weak from a bunch of electrical shocks that occurred when he was in the underground dueling ring after losing everything. However, only one of its arcs was like the original series as opposed to Zexal's entire run. The monsters that appeared also had some pretty cool designs, and Yubel and Darkness were actually pretty good villains. Too bad Darkness's true potential appears more in the Japanese dub of Season 4, something that America never got. Number 3.
This could get sticky.
Yu-Gi-Oh! 5 Dragons. Let's go over what's wrong with it first. Card games on motorcycles, Leo, and the entire English dub. Like many of the other Yu-Gi-Oh! Adaptations, the English dub was not that good. The voice for Yusei was meh. Luna and Leo were kind of annoying, Crow and Akiza were alright, and Jack Alice was just Bakura, but kind of good. However, parts of the plot do make up for it. The idea of the Signers was pretty good. Instead of having one main character with supernatural powers, it's an entire team of people with supernatural powers working together, even though most of the focus we put onto Yusei. The team even struggled to come together because of their personal backstories. Yusei, Jack, and Crow came from the slums called the Satellite. Akiza was experimented on as a child and grew to hate her powers since she couldn't have a normal life because of them. And Luna almost lost her life due to her powers, so Leo prayed to have his life split and shared with her in order to keep her alive. The villains they face are on the good and bad sides. The Dark Signers were people who died and resurrected in order to get revenge or something against those who wronged them. When they died, only some of them realized they were in the wrong. Those that recognized it were later possessed and forced to continue the duel. Then, the King of the Underworld makes an appearance and was pretty interesting in his appearance. After him, the next great villain was Zone. I know there were other villains like Aporia, Sherry, Antimony I think, but Zone took Sherry and Aporia to another level. He gave them more power, but at the cost of their lives. During it, Leo died, but came back due to becoming the new signer. Then Aporia, after realizing his wrongs, duels Zone and loses. Then Yusei dual zoned while having the weight of the world on his shoulders and wins. But card games on motorcycles was a silly idea when you think about it. You're driving motorcycles at high speeds around a track, and holograms are causing damage to you, your motorcycle, and potentially can harm the viewers. I'm amazed at how their cards don't fly away while they're riding. Also, how would they be able to communicate to one another? Most of the time they're a couple feet away and are talking like they're right next to each other. You have 2 motors and are almost constantly turning, but they talk clear as day to one another. Deal wheels are cool in theory, but not when you take them apart.
Is that good or bad? Well, in my experience, anything that looks bad is bad.
Number 2. Wow, there are only 3 Yu-Gi-Oh series left to choose from. This one quickly captured me into its plot. Funny enough, I watched it as it was ending, and then went back to like episode 100, because all the other episodes have been like. I also started this one off as AMVs, or anime music videos. Yu-Gi-Oh! Arc 5, or Arc V, whatever it's called. What's good about it? The nature of it starts out as a fun series with entertainment dueling being a huge part of the culture. Yuya Sakaki is also kind of an interesting character later on, but not in the beginning. He wants to duel like his father, Yugioh Sakaki, but struggles in his duels as well. He becomes the creator of a new summoning method, pendulum summoning. Then a bunch of child soldiers jump into their dimension and start to turn people into cards. During the invasion, Yuya's closest friend, Yuzu Hiragi, is captured and taken into another dimension. Yuya and other duelists go through various dimensions to locate her. And I mean various, I mean like 3. However, that's not all of it. Apparently Yuya shares similarities, somehow, to 3 other boys of different dimensions and even absorbs one of them after 2 of them duel. The other boys are Yuto, who is absorbed by Yuya and uses the Xyz method of summoning, Yugo, who was the one to duel Yuto first and later gets absorbed by Yuri, and also uses the Synchro method of summoning, and Yuri, the evil one, who uses fusion. When all four combine, they become Zark, a duelist from the first dimension who dueled to make people fear him. Yuzu also is part of someone else, Rei. Each U-boy, except for Yuri, jumped dimensions to find a girl they were close to. For Yuto, it was Ruri. For Yugioh, it was Rin. For Yuri, it was the fun of carding duelists. By the end of the series, Yugioh loses some people to the villain and later becomes the villain himself after defeating Yuri and Yugioh. It has pretty much ended, and it has the finale of Reiji Akaba, who is not really the rival of Yuya, dueling Yuya as if he was the rival, while Yuya finally accepts that he's Zark and is going to use the dragons. Why do I like it? Because the main character is a villain himself, kind of like the Supreme King plot though. People actually kinda die, with one kid turning himself into a card, aka suicide, because he betrayed everything close to him. Yuya watches his father get carded right in front of him, holds the card given to him by his father close, sacrifices said card to survive a duel, wins, and then turns into Zark and duels all his former comrades. He only gets Yuzu once, and she's immediately taken away from him moments later. It's a pretty dark series, but it does have its faults. For starters, the premise is kind of like GX. Yuya and Jaden are both pretty happy characters, but start to falter after seeing so much pain and loss. The two also become a villain near the end, Supreme King and Zark. Heck, some of the episode titles even use the Supreme King in them. And if they even Supreme King's Dragon Zark. It really built around GX, apparently. However, the villains are also at fault. The professor brainwashed the four girls to get them to his boss, a Caballero, who wants to turn them back into one since Rei is his daughter. Zark is almost invincible in his duels because of, I don't know, bullshit. Two of his monsters that act as spells allow him to negate damage and then heal for what the damage would have been. His monsters can also fuse, synchro, and overlay when his opponents do the very same. They also cannot be destroyed if another Supreme King monster exists. Zark is on the field, and is a Pendulum, Xyz, Fusion, and Synchro monster until Rei is revived and uses the 4 cards that change him into a normal monster are played and then just wrecks him. A lot of people also say that they spent a lot of time in the Synchro dimension, but I skipped that arc for that very reason. Now then, number 1.
It was good, but not perfect.
It's obviously Yugioh Duel Monsters. I grew up with it as a child. It's the original, and it's what got me and Catastrophe into the game itself. Heck, I got back into the game and started off with the Yugi starter pack. If you don't know what it's about, here's the synopsis. A young high schooler named Yugi Moto was given an ancient puzzle by his grandpa. After many years, he solves it and unlocks the dark power that rests within it. However, the spirit, an ancient Egyptian pharaoh, doesn't know who he is, so part of his story is to regain the memories. However, people who wield magical items called the Millennium Items are after Yugi and his Millennium Puzzle. The first villain steals his grandpa's soul and has Yugi enter his tournament for the chance to win him back. Then another Millennium Item wielder tries to get the puzzle but loses on many occasions to the hero, only to become the true villain and possess more power than shown. A third Millennium Item wants to collect the most powerful cards in all Duel Monsters, cards that represent Egyptian gods, and one having the name of an executive producer since he died before the arc was finished. Then there's an arc dealing with Atlantis, but the final duel is the best moment. Yugi has to duel with this spirit who was in his puzzle in order to allow him to pass on into the afterlife. There are some problems with the series though. The biggest one is they hardly ever follow the actual rules. First season, aka Duelist Kingdom, they make up the rules as they go. This actually causes the card Attack the Moon to exist, because Yugi used a monster to attack a field spell to win a duel, even though you can't do that. Then some of the cards have different effects than what they actually are, like when Yugi uses a card effect that only works for the user to summon the Dark Magician Girl, which the card effect doesn't even allow you to summon the Dark Magician Girl, but whatever. Or when Kaiba uses 2 flutes of summoning dragons to summon 2 dragons, when the actual effect allows him to summon 2 dragons with 1. But I mean, the plots are kind of good, and so are the stories. And it can get pretty dark at times as well, even if the dub tried to cover up for it. This is the only one that I like being dubbed because the actors do well with the voices. They're pretty close to the Japanese versions and manage to keep the emotion the same. There's also the best Yu-Gi-Oh series, and I can't wait to see the new Yu-Gi-Oh! V-Rains, or Vrains, or however it's pronounced. VR-Ains, I guess. and then prepare for disappointment. Zexal was a recreation of Duel Monsters, Arc 5 a little like GX, and VRAM seems like it's gonna be 5Ds with a new summoning method, as well as duels while driving some kind of vehicle, or hoverboards. Funny enough, 5Ds already had the hoverboards which were used by Rua and Ruka, or Leo and Luna. What are you doing here? You wanted to see me, so I came. But I will give you one diplomatic chance to end our little squabble. We do it in a review, obviously. Only question is, what will it be? Until next time.
So this is the end? Feels weird.
Yeah.
What were you geeks expecting?
Fireworks, sappy music, something. At least make one of your little wrap-up speeches, Yug.
Well, sometimes the end of one adventure is just the beginning of another.